You're welcome to my channel. We are continuing with our questions. And this question says, discuss 5 indicators that the Uganda's economy has not undergone full structural transformation. In our previous video, we looked at the reasons as to why the Ugandan economy has not undergone full structural transformation, whereby we shifted so quick from agriculture to service sector. So here they want us to see the indicators. What are those things that show that we actually did not have the full economic transformation like other countries? Yeah. So the indicators, they are 5. First is that Uganda has the largest rural population in East Africa, whereby 82% live in the villages compared to the 2014 census that was carried out. So we are the service sector, we are the same level like America, because for them they're the service sector and it's worth it. But us, we are the service sector level, but most people are still in the villages, which shows that we had partial structure transformation. Then urban informal sector accounts for nearly half of the GDP, whereby it contributes 42%, which is the second highest in East Africa after Tanzania. Like where in a country where they are the service at the service level, the formal sector is supposed to dominate. But in our country, it's not the case. The informal sector still contributes nearly a half to our GDP. So we are still informal, but we are at the modernized level. Yeah, so it shows that we had partial structure transformation. Then another reason is low electric power generating capacity, lower than Kenya and Tanzania. Like we are the service level, but we do not even have power in the country. Most villages in Uganda where most people live, there is no electricity. Then incomplete demographic transformation, whereby we have the second lowest death rate and the highest birth rate. Our things do not match. If the birth rate is high, even the death rate is supposed to be high. Ours, we have the opposite. Low death rate, high birth rate. Then our tax to GDP ratio, it is 14%, which is the lowest. And the normal one is supposed to be 18%. But ours is 14% and it's the lowest in the region, the East African region. So those are the 5 regions. Those are the 5 indicators that show that we did not undergo full structural transformation of the economy. Then let's look at another question. They're saying explain the difference between the following concepts as used in Uganda. First is absolute and relative poverty. Absolute poverty is a condition characterized by severe deprivation of basic needs such as food, safe drinking water, sanitation facilities, health, shelter, education, etc. So absolute poverty is when you're completely poor. You cannot afford food, you cannot afford to pay where you stay, you cannot afford safe drinking water. Yeah, so it's what we call absolute poverty. Then relative poverty, it compares the person or household income to the income distribution of the country. So here they compare someone's income to the way income is distributed in the country. Yeah, it refers to the minimum amount that a person needs to enjoy what is considered as average living standard in the country. Then another one, they want us to differentiate between incidence and intensity of poverty. Incidence of poverty, it is also known as the headcount index. It determines what percentage of the population lives below the poverty line. That is incidence of poverty. The percentage of people that live below the poverty line. Then the intensity of poverty, which is the poverty gap. Intensity of poverty is the poverty gap. Incidence of poverty is the head count. So the intensity of poverty, it is an indicator that is used to assess the extent to which the standard of living of poor people is under the poverty line. So in test, it's about the extent. To what extent are these people poor? Someone can be poor when they are just poor for a some period, or they are poor to a smaller extent, and there are those who are completely poor. They can't afford food, shelter, clothes, education, everything. Someone can be poor when they can afford food and then shelter, but they can't afford education. But there are those who can be completely poor. So we use the intensity of poverty or poverty gap to assess the extent to which the standard of living of the poor people is under the poverty line. Yeah. Then we continue with our question. That's saying the following table shows variations in income inequality in Uganda over a period of 2 decades as measured by the Gini coefficient. The Gini coefficient is used to measure the income inequality. So the following table shows variations in income inequality in Uganda over a period of 2 decades as measured by the Gini coefficient. And we have the national income, we have the rural income within the urban income for the financial year 1992-1993, financial 2002-2003, and financial 2012-2013. Required. First, they want us to explain the meaning of the term Gini coefficient and how it is computed. Gini coefficient, it is a statistical measure of distribution that is used to measure economic inequality. So that is the definition. Gini coefficient, it is used to measure the economic inequality or income inequality, the difference between the incomes of the people in the economy. So it is used to measure the economic inequality in a particular area or country. Yeah, it is calculated by taking the area between the Lorentz curve and the diagonal and dividing it by the half square area in which the curve lies. So when we are calculating the Gini coefficient, we are supposed to use the Lorentz curve. A Gini coefficient of 0 means perfect equality, and a Gini coefficient of 1 means perfect inequality. So this is how it is calculated. It is calculated by taking the area between the Lorentz curve and the diagonal and dividing it by a half square area in which the curve lies. Yeah. Then another question is, clearly giving reasons, discuss the variations in income inequality between rural and urban areas in Uganda as indicated in the table above. So we go back to our table and we see we have the rural areas. Here in this year, they have the income of 0.328, and in the urban area 0.396. You see that there is a difference. The income in the urban area is higher than the income in the rural area. Then we go to the next year. The income is 0.363, and here it is 0.483. There is an inequality. They are not the same. Then we come here, we see 0.341, then 0.410. There is a difference. So there is inequality whereby the people in urban areas earn more income compared to the people in the rural areas. So we come here and answer our question that telling us, clearly giving reasons, discuss the variations in income inequality between rural and urban areas in Uganda as indicated in the table above. So they want us to discuss what causes the variations in income. What do you think causes the differences in the income between the people in the rural areas and the people in the urban areas? The first reason is regional variation in poverty mirrors. Regional variation in poverty mirrors the regional disparities in access and quality of service, whereby urban areas have better access to all public services, for example, schools, sanitation, electricity, etc. It is very hard to find a place in Kampala when it has no electricity. but you go to northern Uganda, go to eastern Uganda, go to western Uganda. So there is a difference in access to services and the quality of services that are received. It is one of the reasons that's why there is income inequality, whereby when you're in Kampala, you can easily go to school. When you're in Kampala, you can easily access a bank and very many other things. But the villages in Uganda, whereby to access a mobile money, you have to take a border to reach where a mobile money is. Yeah, so there is variation in access to services and the quality of services that are accessed. Then another reason for the income inequality is the uneven pattern of consumption growth led to the rising inequality as consumption grew faster in urban areas than rural areas. So in urban areas there is much consumption whereby people overeat by the way in urban areas, but when you go to rural areas they eat once in a day. Yeah, once in a day, whereby so if you have a business in Kampala, you will easily sell because there is much consumption compared to villages. Yeah, villages they only buy rice, for example, on Easter, Eid, then Christmas. Yeah, there is even no birthdays, but in town, those are normal things. There are always birthdays, there are always other days that are celebrated like that. So the consumption in urban areas is higher than the consumption in rural areas. Then another one is faster growth in consumption among rich households within urban areas. Yeah, they overconsume. So if you have a business here, if you have a business in urban areas or in Kampala, you can easily make money compared to someone who is in the village. Then some rural areas, and the north in particular, lagged behind in monetary poverty and access and quality of public services due to the war. So there was a war in northern Uganda in times of Gini. Yeah, so they lagged behind because of that. They are still recovering from that shock. So it's the reason as to why they are still poor. Then the high level of public infrastructure and publicly provided services in urban areas due to the creation of better employment services. In town, there is better infrastructure compared to the infrastructure that is in the villages. So they encourage production of goods and services, which in turn increases the income of people who live in urban areas. Then public investments that attracted private investment over the period. Urban areas can easily attract investors to invest in them because they look good, but the rural areas look bad. They will not attract the what? They will not attract the investors to invest in there. So they will end up being poor and having low income households. Yeah, so those are some of the reasons of the variations in income inequality. Yeah, thanks for watching. Don't forget to tap on the heart button down there. It is called the thank you button. You thank Naisha Academy in any way that you feel like. Then there is also a join button down there. You can join and subscribe to any package of the Naisha Academy. And then you can tap on the red button and subscribe. You like, you comment, you share with your friends. Thanks for watching.